You found the Backup Wrap-Up, your go-to podcast for all things backup, recovery, and cyber recovery. In this episode, we take a look at Reconnaissance in cybersecurity by examining Mr. Robot Season 1, Episode 2. Prasanna and I break down how threat actors conduct reconnaissance before launching major attacks, just like F Society did against Evil Corp in the show. We explore the human intelligence aspects, like figuring out who's dumb enough to take a random CD from some guy on the street and put it in their computer. We also discuss why your backup systems are prime targets for recon. Modern attackers can spend months mapping your infrastructure, identifying your weaknesses, and planning their approach. This episode will, I think, open your eyes to just how thorough those recon operations can be. By the way, if you don't know who I am, I'm W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup, and I've been passionate about backup and recovery for over 30 years, ever since I had to tell my boss that we had no backups of the production database that we had just lost. I don't want that to happen to you, and that's why I do this. On this podcast, we turn unappreciated admins into cyber recovery heroes. This is the Backup Wrap-Up. Welcome to the show. Hi, I'm W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup, and I have with me a guy that just doesn't seem to get stressed out like I do, Prasanna Maliandi. How's it going, Prasanna?
I'm good, Curtis.
How do you stay so even keel? You're just I'm just and you're just you're good, man.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't think I used to be like this.
Is it weed? What?
No, no. Growing up, or even after that, through high school and college, and even the beginning part of my career, I don't think I was even keeled like this. For the most part, I was, but I used to get stressed, and then I don't know what changed. Something clicked, and one day I'm like, okay. I know a lot of people I work with who are like, "How are you so calm all the time?" I'd be in the middle of a fire drill. I'm like, "It's okay."
Yeah, I need you in my fire drills. I feel like I'm in the middle of 3 or 4 fire drills right now. You saw, I got 3 phone calls. We're trying to do this episode, and I got 3 phone calls. Which reminds me, I'm gonna put my phone on focus, right? There, okay.
It'll be okay, Curtis. Just take a deep breath. Shall we turn this into a meditation?
Yeah. Anyway. But speaking of focusing on stuff, we are continuing our series of lessons learned from Mr. Robot, which is a great show. Spoiler alert, by the way, we're going to be talking about stuff in this episode and all of these episodes. If you haven't watched it, if you haven't watched Season 1, Episode 2 of Mr. Robot, go watch it now before you listen to the podcast. When you and I watched this episode, we weren't quite sure what we were going to pull out of this episode. And there's a couple of things. This is a very foundational episode. We sort of learn who Mr. Robot is. We learn that Elliot is given the opportunity to participate in this hack that they want to take down Evil Corp, which I love. I love that it's called Evil Corp. And it uses essentially Enron's logo. Yeah. Completely unmodified, which is unironic, to say the least. And then, he's given the opportunity to participate in this thing. And then they basically said, look, if you walk away, you walk away. And, and he does. He actually walks away. He will obviously end up coming back. Otherwise, this would be a very short series. But
the end.
The end, yeah. But what we're going to focus on is this concept of reconnaissance and network mapping, because what you see is that clearly they have been doing that because they know some things about Evil Corp that they wouldn't know otherwise.
Yeah. And so maybe just to provide a bit more context, because I'm sure people are not watching it as recently as we have. So in this episode, kind of as a recap, right, what ends up happening is he goes and he visits the bunker with where F Society is, right? In addition, this is where Mr. Robot tells him, hey, we want you to, and we will discuss more in details about the network mapping. We want you to take out their backup facility where, if you don't remember, it was called Steel Mountain.
Steel
Uh,
Mountain, not to be confused with any other company by a similar name.
Yes, and that's where they have their backups, as well as there just happens to be a gas plant next to it. We will talk about that in a
Right.
little bit. In addition, in this episode, this is also where you meet the drug dealer,
Yeah.
right where Elliot's neighbor Shayla gets the drugs that she then sells to Elliot. So Fernando Vera was the guy's name. Let's see what else happened in this episode. This is also the episode where I don't know if people remember it, but um, Angela and Ollie, right, her boyfriend, were
Yeah.
just kind of standing out on the street, and there is a guy who's trying to sell CDs.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, sell my CD or buy my CD. All I need is like 20 tweets saying that you
Yeah.
like it or whatever else, right?"
Yeah. Yeah. And they gave him a CD, which turns out to be something very much not a CD, or
Yeah.
not a music CD.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think in this episode too, right? They talk about how Ollie puts it in the laptop at home,
Yeah.
right? And the guy is able to sort of take over. It installs some malware. He's able to
Yeah.
look at the webcam,
Yeah.
right? Hear
Yeah.
their conversations, all the rest of that.
And that was where the very last moment of that episode is when he's seeing the webcam and he can see the girl. He can see Angela basically like going to take a shower, and he's like,
Yeah.
"We're in." The last line
Yep.
in the episode is "We're in," and
Written and "we're in" was actually written in Chinese.
oh, okay, I guess I missed that part.
Yeah.
Um, the and so any hack, any major hack, which is going to include like this is this hack that they want to do of Evil Corp is definitely I would call this like an EPT or an APT, an advanced persistent threat, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be doing this over a long period of time, and they have a goal in mind, and they are willing to be patient to do the things that they need to do to move forward. And I think that it gives us an opportunity to discuss this concept of reconnaissance and network mapping, which is what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Their goal, right? With this entire thing, right? What are they looking to accomplish with Evil Corp, right? Evil Corp basically has all the credit records of everyone in the country.
Right.
And as you start to see, Angela is in heavy debt with student loans, right? There are other people who, Shayla, the Elliot's neighbor, is also in debt. And so it's basically, they're like, we can basically attack the company, destroy everything, and do basically a giant reset on everyone's
Right.
financial
Right.
records
Right.
and bring
Yeah. So
everyone back to
that's
normal.
their end goal, right?
Yeah.
Basically, deleting and they know that if they delete the primary copy, they know that they have a copy, in their backups stored in Steel Mountain.
Yeah.
And so they know, therefore, and by the way, why? And I guess how do they know that? And the answer to that question is the answer to this, or is the
Yep.
title of this episode, because they went in and they did reconnaissance and they figured out, and again, this is something that we've said on multiple episodes, that it's going to be one of the primary goals of once the initial access has been granted to the threat actor, their next step is going to be figure out what can we get rid of that, basically how can we stop whatever it is that would then stop us. In other words, they're going to try to take out the backups, right? And and yeah, this is a podcast dedicated to backups, but and so maybe to hammer everything looks like a nail. Trust me, talk to any go listen to the Red Team episode where he basically said two things. One is he loved backups because they were so great at helping him to do network mapping and figure things out, and he loved the system, the fact that they run his system and all that stuff. And then the other is, yes, you're going to try to take that out.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, many of the designs that we have today are using entirely disk-based backups, disk and cloud. And if you're depending on how you set that up, they can easily map all of that stuff, figure that stuff out, and then delete it, right?
Hmm.
And what we have in this episode is we do see that this company is at least storing some offsite backups in Steel Mountain.
Yeah.
And in this case, it happens to be tape backups. Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be tape
Which,
backups, right?
yeah,
But yeah, go
which
ahead.
is basically a third party vendor, right? It's
Yeah, it's a
not,
third
they're
party
not
vendor.
controlling
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, AKA Iron Mountain, right?
Yeah.
Right, Iron Mountain or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And the I think it's funny that like did they reach out to Iron Mountain see if they wanted to be
Probably
branded
not.
in the episode? Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just it's funny. Like anybody in the industry is like, oh, yeah, they mean Iron Mountain, right? Um, but there's a couple of things here. One is first just understanding this concept of reconnaissance, right? What are the kinds of things do you think that a threat actor, once they've gained initial access, what are the kinds of things that they're going to try to figure out?
Well, they're going to figure out, well, for them, right? They want to figure out what's the most valuable data in the company,
Right.
right? That's one thing. And then where all is that data sitting?
Hmm.
And then where are those things that can be used to recover from any sort of attack? Because remember, we talked about with ransomware, right? It's not just a matter of, right, encrypting your data, deleting your backups. A lot of these people will also exfiltrate your data,
Right.
right, for double extortion. So you are
Right.
now forced to pay in order to prevent incriminating evidence or bad things about your company from being published.
Yeah. And if I agree everything that you said. I will preface. I will add to your list at the beginning of your list. Um, Basically human
Yeah.
based reconnaissance because we see that happening with Angela and Ollie. And I would wager to bet, well, not wager. I think if we go back to the first episode, that which oddly enough is numbered
We
episode
we
zero
should we should
because it's
actually clarify, yeah. So for people who are watching the show and then trying to map it to what we're talking about, the show technically starts with episode 0.
yeah 1.0 and 1.1. This is episode 1.1,
Yeah.
aka episode 2, in binary fashion, right? We're starting
Yeah.
at 0, which again I think it's kind of cool, right? But and also confusing for certain
Yes.
things, right? But basically, what we see is clearly in the case of what happened with Elliot, which is our main protagonist here. What happened with Elliot is clearly they did reconnaissance against Elliot.
Yep. Yep.
Clearly, they figured out what he was up to, and they figured out his
Well,
proclivities. Right? They
yep.
figured out. I think I think they felt that they had found someone that they could exploit is a strong word, but they could use, right?
Yeah, and you see this on the previous episode, right? Where
Yeah,
he's sitting at the computer terminal in the data center and he's like, I should go delete this directory. And it's at the prompt where it's like yes or no. And he's like,
yeah,
I should do it, and his fingers hovering over the
yeah,
Y. But
yeah,
he's like, and because there was a text file that said, leave me here. Right.
right,
And he's like, it was intended for me. So I think,
yeah,
like you said, Curtis, the only way they could have done that is if they had done some sort of human read on him to be like, yes, this is the sort of thing that he is struggling with, and let
yeah.
us use him.
Also known as human, right? Human
Yeah.
intelligence, and yeah. So they figured out, and what we also know about Elliot is he has a problem.
Yep.
In addition to being antisocial and anti, he's also got a drug problem, right?
Yep.
So we're seeing it, and that's something that again, like I don't know if you've ever heard this. The only two people that actually know you are your hairdresser and your CPA, right?
Yeah.
Right. They know your real hair color, and your CPA knows where you're actually spending your money,
Yep.
right? And so if someone had done reconnaissance against him, and you think about it, they, they, they targeted him because of his access.
Yep.
He worked at AllSafe, which is this cybersecurity firm. So
Yep.
they're like, who can we get that has access into the company? We're going to find somebody, and they probably did a bunch of reconnaissance against AllSafe,
Yep. And the employees, and to
and
figure
the
out.
employees, and they watch them and they see what they do, and they see
What?
Elliot like going out there
No.
buying drugs and stuff. I mean, if they're
Yeah.
this is a big operation, and they're going to do stuff like that,
Yep.
to do the reconnaissance to figure out what's
Which
going on.
which was very interesting because Elliot was super careful
Yeah,
because there's a scene, right, where he hacks Terrell, right, who is sort of the person who wants to become CTO of
yeah,
Evil Corp, right? And he realizes, oh, it's too easy. And there's a scene where he's literally taking apart his computer, he's drilling the hard drives, he's
yeah,
taking out all the
yeah,
memory cards and throwing it into the microwave and
yeah,
zapping them. And
yeah,
even with all being so careful, right?
yeah,
Maybe he didn't think about the human intelligence piece.
yeah, yeah. Um, and Tyrell, he's a twisted little fellow himself, right? Um, but because we have in this episode we have the scene of him paying money to go beat the crap out of some homeless dude. I
Yeah.
do not know what that. I mean, clearly that's it's a like that's going to come into play
Later.
later. But
Right.
but this is the thing. Like when you have a company, you have all sorts of people that work for you that have all sorts of weaknesses.
Yep.
They might be financial weaknesses. They might be drug weaknesses. They might be people weaknesses. And if some entity wants to take your company down, they're going to go through the trouble of doing this kind of reconnaissance of figuring out who works at your company to see who's going to be dumb enough to take a CD off the street
Yep.
and then put it into a network computer.
You know,
Yeah,
it drives me bonkers because remember back in the day, people would just leave like USB sticks around and
yeah,
people would pick it up and put it in their machines. And then
yes,
companies would be like, please do not do this. That is bad. And then they had to start locking down all the USBs.
yeah. Another thing is that,
Airports.
well, you can buy, like, if you buy USB, like used thumb
Yeah.
drives off of eBay or used hard drives, you will get data on those, on those
Yeah.
drives,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And again, I know I've told this story before, but I love this story. I'm going to go back to several years ago when Symantec bought Veritas,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the first and they had a Veritas Vision was the name of their conference, which it used to be called Vericon, but
Mm.
then when they went to international, apparently Vericon in French sounds like very stupid,
Yo.
and so they changed it to Veritas Vision, and then it was Semantic Vision, and it was the first conference after the Semantic rebranding,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember two things. One is they didn't really do anything with NetBackup. They did
Yeah.
literally, because I remember blogging. I think you can find a blog on my website because it's been around a while. You can find a blog on my website that says that the Symantec apparently spent a year painting everything yellow and black. That's what I remember saying. But then it was the trade show, and they passed out a thumb drive for everyone it was the conference materials, and the thumb drive that at the Symantec conference
Had malware?
had malware on it. And so like it was like the next day, and they're like, "Hey, if you got that thumb drive, can you don't put it in anything. It's got a thing." Which I mean that's just like,
Ironic.
yeah,
Yeah.
ironic to the max, right? The fact that an antivirus company essentially would distribute a virus or whatever it was. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was a virus, but it was malware.
Yeah.
At
No.
their own conference. Yeah.
So I think the one interesting thing about this episode as well, right? So we talked about the human intelligence piece, right? And
Yeah.
kind of understanding who's where. The other thing was in the episode, they talked about, okay, all of their data is on their primary data center.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, we can go delete it. But being a financial company, guess what it has? They have paper records, right? They
Right.
keep records still. And
Right.
that is actually what is in Steel Mountain.
Oh, is that what's in Steel Mountain? Is the paper records? Okay,
Yeah.
I missed that part. And by the way, something I learned, I think I've said this in previous, but something I learned is that if you see a truck that's branded and it says Iron Mountain, it's not
Oh,
like,
yeah, you did mention it in the last
level one
episode.
stuff, right? It's
Yeah.
like, I think it might be it
Shredding.
may only be a paper destruction,
Yeah.
right? It's definitely not tapes.
Yeah.
But I do remember many years ago, I don't know if it was Iron Mountain, but it was an offsite vaulting company, and the offsite vault guy, he was driving his van. He was the man in a van,
Yeah.
and he stopped at Starbucks to get some stuff, and he came back out, and his van was gone.
Oh, no. That's not good. Yeah. It's like go from A to B. Do not
Yeah,
stop anywhere.
yeah,
Do not.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah,
so
so go ahead, go ahead,
Oh,
go ahead.
yeah. So Steel Mountain. So they were like, yeah. And to find that out, right, they probably had to look at email records and POs and figure out like when are records going out the door to this other place and who's it going to and what's their schedule. And oh, you know what it was is they had
I'll just
set.
interrupt there. Just interrupt there. And the amazing thing about things like POs and things like that is they're like just PDFs,
Yeah.
and they're generally stored in plain text. No one thinks about securing that data
Yeah.
from outside access. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, the other thing is they did also mention in the episode, they're like, guess where most of the S&P 500 stores their or archives their data. And that's what they said, Steel Mountain. And
Yeah.
guess who one of those is Evil Corp.
Right. Right.
Right. And so
It's,
that's where
yeah.
they're like, it is this one facility that we need to attack.
Yeah. And I'm willing to go on a limb and say that there is nowhere where Iron Mountain has a facility next door to a gas.
I was going to say, I was like, what is a likelihood that a company that is known for that would put it like right next to a gas plant?
Yeah, yeah. And my previous employer, I got sent to a facility, a secure tape storage facility for a household name financial organization. And it's in the middle of a giant field, right?
Mhm.
With berms around it,
Yeah.
right? And to get there with a car, you have to go through 3 levels of security, right? There's a giant like metal barricade
Mm-hmm.
that's down. You talk through a squawk box that lets you through that barricade through the steel reinforced fence, right?
Yeah.
Then you go through there, then you park in a parking lot, then you go inside and you talk to the person who then determines, and then you go through another of the crossing guard barricades to go inside a building where they then go around with one of those like scanning things to scan your car, and they're putting stuff underneath. Like I think Iron Mountain would have something similar, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's like Fort Knox, right? You don't like Fort Knox is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked about that basically they would do this. They would go through all of this effort to do reconnaissance. And what we see, I think at the very end there, is we see the beginning of a more digital method of reconnaissance, right? So now we've got access to the computer, and they're going to do, I think, a couple of things there, because obviously they have webcam access. So they're going to be able to listen in on conversations. They're going to be able to hear things. And this is Angela, who is part of AllSafe. And he's also part of AllSafe, right?
Yep, Ollie is.
And so they're going to have conversations that, it'd be great to listen in on. And so they're going to be able to do, again, human-based intelligence. And they're going to learn all sorts of stuff, because these two people, they're very connected, and they're going to be in what they think is a very safe place discussing stuff. But again, just going back to proper stuff, right? You don't You don't do that, right?
Yeah.
You don't just take a
Don't
CD off a guy or a thumb drive off a
yeah,
guy or a thumb drive that you find on the ground
and then put it
and
in your
then
system.
yeah, and then put it in your
Well,
system.
and also please, when you're at an airport and you see those USB charging ports
Yeah,
at an airport, do not
yeah.
plug in your phone to those.
Well, I will say, so I'll push back on that a little bit. I can't argue with it too much, but what I will say is at least a decent modern phone will say, "Hey, you just plugged into this device. Do you want to trust it?" And I would say, make sure you say no.
Okay.
Right? I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
best practice is don't do it. Right?
Yeah.
Actually, best practice would be bring a
Right.
plug.
Yeah. That's
Right?
what I do.
Right? But
Yep.
yeah, yeah, that's best practice.
Yeah. And
Good,
in
better,
fact,
best. Right?
I
Yeah.
think even Department of Homeland Security also recommends not
Yeah,
plugging in
again,
an airport.
I can't disagree with you. I'm just
Yeah.
saying if you're desperate, if you're gonna,
Yeah.
but again, that's what they want. They want you to
Yeah.
be desperate.
Same thing on airplanes.
And also, whatever you do, don't just trust a random cable because I did
Yes.
watch a presentation on a cable that looked like just a regular normal
Yep.
cable, and it it took over a phone.
Yeah.
And what was that last thing you said? What was it?
Oh, also on airplanes.
Oh yeah. Airplane, yeah, because those are definitely
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, so basically, again, best practice is not to trust random guy.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think the other thing is also be careful what you post online about some of these things, which maybe should not be out there.
yeah, it's something that I think our generation. You are in my generation, right? No, actually, aren't you a
No.
millennial? What are you?
Yeah. I'm technically a millennial.
You're an elder millennial, just like I'm an
Yes.
elder. I'm an elder Gen Xer. Um, yeah. So both of our generations, I think, understand that a little bit better than the current
Yeah.
generations. The two, where literally they just they post they got up. I went to the bathroom. Here's what I had for breakfast.
Well, I think
You know what I mean?
someone had like posted a video of like they had joined a company and like were posting like their security stuff, like just a walkthrough of the building and the security things. And it's like,
Yeah, it's no bueno, no
yeah,
bueno. Um, so and again, I'll use this as an opportunity again that because the backup system is such a target, it needs to be segregated, right? It needs to be on a separate network. It needs to be on a separate authentication and authorization system. It's going to be on a separate intra domain, formerly known as Active Directory. And, my personal is that you would use like local passwords and a password manager, that you wouldn't use a network based, system, and lots of MFA and
security loggings.
YubiKeys and like incorporate biometrics if you can, right?
Yeah.
And just have that as separate as you can. And it sounds like a pain to do it, and it is a pain the first time. But then when it's like okay, when I'm doing backups, I just need to be on
Yeah.
this other system.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like the pain I went through recently, after being chided with Mike when he was on here and he was talking about, don't do your financial transactions and anything that really matters from a security perspective at the same time as you have other browser tabs open in the same browser. And I never really thought about that. And so I went through the trouble of getting a different browser, right? And I had to get a browser that was supported by my password manager, which I had like 2 or 3 to choose from. And then I also added a basically enforcement thing so that if I forget that, and trust me, I do all day long, I forget it, right? I go to open up, my bank on my usual browser, and it basically says, site prohibited, right?
Yeah.
So it was a pain when I first started doing it, but there are ways to do it that
You don't just wipe your computer every hour and
I
start
do
over.
not. I do not wipe my computer every hour. And yeah, and I'll also say that his drilling of the thing, for what it's worth, the drilling of the thing. I mean, it's helpful, but it's not. It doesn't destroy the hard drive. I think I like the idea of the microwaving of the chips. I think that's probably an effective way of getting, because that's the thing is that modern devices have all these like chips in them. What were you going to say?
I'm surprised he didn't have a giant magnet to degauss the hard drives.
The hard drive? Those are really expensive.
Are they?
Really expensive? Yeah. A magnet big enough to degauss a modern hard drive is actually quite expensive.
See, I would have expected he would have had something around like his door frame. So in
that would have
case
to be, that would have to be even more, powerful. But the thing that a lot of people do forget about are all the chips. The chips are in the tapes, or in the hard drives, or in all stuff. All that stuff. The SIM cards. I think SIM cards is what he was destroying.
Yep.
But again, going back to the point of this episode, if some entity is going to try to take out your company, they're going to go through the effort that of what we're describing, right?
Yep.
So
then, is it hopeless then to try to protect against it?
No. Hopeless is a strong term. I would say, in some sense, it's not hopeless in that like there is no point in doing it.
Yeah.
It is hopeless in that, I did it. I did all the things that I was told to do, and so therefore I'm good. You need to understand that you are most likely going to be compromised at some point, and you therefore need to be prepared to be able to deal with it.
Is it that, or is it also you should estimate the risk, or look at your risk profile for these different activities?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I mean. Is like, you need to prepare. You need to do what you can to limit the blast radius. Do what you can to limit exfiltration and to detect exfiltration when it's happening.
Yeah. And the best way to understand how all this works?
What's that?
Do tabletop exercises.
Yes, tabletop exercises. Here, I thought you were going to say buy a copy of my upcoming book, but
oh, that too.
Yeah. So, all right, I think we're good. Go watch episode 3, and we'll be ready to talk about that.
Or episode
1.2.
Yeah, 1.2.
So confusing. It's like when you go to it's like when you're American and you go to any other country, and it's the metric system, but also every other country, the first floor is 0.
0. Yep.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to bring up that example.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very disconcerting if you're used to it. It's the first floor, so it's floor 1. I don't get that. Europe.
On that note,
all right.
Go watch the next episode and listen to the next podcast episode.
Yeah. Thanks for helping me out, Persona.
No, this was fun. I do enjoy rewatching the show because I haven't seen it since it came out. So
yeah,
brings back some memories.
It's either that or K-pop Demon Hunters.
So my niece wanted me to watch that. I have not watched it yet, but it's on the list.
Lily, my granddaughter, has watched it, and she told me all about it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm good. I think I'm good. Anyway, thanks for listening, folks. And, you're why we do this. That is a wrap. The Backup Wrap-Up is written, recorded, and produced by me, W. Curtis Preston. If you need backup or DR consulting, content generation, or expert witness work, check out backupcentral.com. You can also find links for my O'Reilly books on the same website. Remember, this is an independent podcast, and any opinions that you hear are those of the speaker and not necessarily an employer. Thanks for listening.